On this episode of AV Week, Solotech acquires Morris Light and Sound, Pearl Technology acquires IAS, and recreating the spirit of users. All this and more on this episode of AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.
This is AV Week 497. We're legit.
Support for AV Nation is brought to you by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
And by
Draper, focused on innovative solutions.
Welcome to this episode of AV Week. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for avnation.tv. Obviously, I'm filling in for Tim this week, and we are pleased to be joined by three of my good friends. First, we have the one and only Dawn Mead. She is a senior AV architect for a company, and that's where we're leaving that. How are you, Dawn?
Very good here in the undisclosed location in the central eastern coast of the United States.
That's so specific, too. I love it. I'm somewhere in America. Yeah, I'm not in America today. Then we have Christopher Hope. He is the owner of Equity Intelligence and the co-founder of the Loop Lab. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Nice to be on the show again. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for being here. And last and certainly not least, we have Brittany Board. She is a marketing manager at USAV. How you doing, Brittany?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're going to kick this off with a couple of things. There's been a slew of acquisitions, but before we do, Dawn is fangirling again over the fact that the OLEDs, specifically, I believe the LG OLEDs, won an Emmy late last week, I think it was announced. For a combination of things. One, for the massive increase of user experience that OLED has brought to experiencing media, but also the groundbreaking way in which they've been using OLEDs in specifically The Mandalorian as their virtual background for all their set productions. They're not using a green screen, which is the stereotypical way in which that's done. Dawn, how excited were you to see this?
I literally squealed in my cubicle at work, getting lots of funny looks. And it actually, I love you, Matt, but it broke my heart. Tim wasn't here because Tim and I have fangirled and fanboyed this technology for over a decade now. If you've watched AV Nation or listened to AV Nation more than 5 minutes in the past decade, you've heard one or both of us ranting about how awesome OLED technology is. So winning this massive award, and I mean, it's the Emmys. People that have no idea that AV is even an industry know the Emmys. It's like the Emmys, the Oscars, the Grammys. It's practically an EGOT. So I'm super excited about it. I think it's bringing OLED more into the mainstream. Hopefully that'll bring our manufacturer prices down, and I will have it in my living room very soon.
Oh, nice.
we're getting close. Chris, you were excited to hear this too. What
yeah.
About, because it's not unheard of for tech to win an award or win an Emmy or a Grammy or something like that, but it's not common.
Right. It's not common, and I think that it happening at the Emmys, though, right? Mm-hmm. It's affirmation of the shifting of the guard, if you will, especially when you talk about like visual effects. So I'm a fan of The Mandalorian, just spoiler alert there. And to learn that in The Mandalorian, when we talk about the visual effects behind it, it's not CGI, that it's actually the OLED screens that they used for it. And the fact that they here we have this technology that is supplanting the green screen. You're going to start to see other studios now using this technology and setting a new standard across the board. And it's one of those things where it's going to be cheaper. It's going to really be something that is potentially a game changer. And I think it's justifying, kind of like what Don said, the OLED technology, which is, I think 10 years past of being in the making. You know, to kind of justify what she said, but I definitely do agree that it's exciting. And it definitely makes a huge statement within the AV world. So yeah, I'm similarly very excited about this move and the future of filmmaking.
I'm really intrigued with the filmmaking side of it, strictly because of how it may expedite production, to not have to go back and map a green screen across multiple cameras and multiple views. It might be really, really cool to watch, see what comes down the pipe. All right,
Yeah.
I'm also very excited to have one more thing that I can point to and tell my 80-year-old mother, no, that's what I do for a living. 20 years on, we're still trying to explain commercial AV.
Right. And just on the filmmaking side, think about how much money goes into the post-production, right? VFX, and just thinking around now, OLED being so common, well, hopefully one day being so commonplace that I can imagine how much money will be saved, hopefully, expense-wise. So the potential for this, is exciting. Yeah. So there's a lot of ramifications of that.
Yeah, it's very far reaching.
Well, I want to add, you also have to think that the film industry is always ahead of everybody else. And the fact that they're using some of the top technology in the AV industry, you have to think that that's going to start trickling down to residential. And these 4K TVs are soon going to become out to date with the new 8K. We started seeing 8K pretty prominent at Infocom back in 2019, the last time we had Infocom. And I just think that's going to become the gateway.
It's as somebody who, if you don't know, I play in both worlds. I play in commercial and a little bit in residential as well. We're starting to see the push for 8K in residential. And it's not the major studios that are pushing that, of course. It's all of the digital online media that's coming. And you're seeing it's not always the executive at home who's saying, hey, I want an 8K projector. It's their kids saying, hey, we filmed this on our Galaxy or our, whatever phone it was. We filmed this in 8K. What can you do so we can see this in the theater or in the kitchen? It's such again, I think we're kind of at that turning point where there are things in residential that will push commercial, which doesn't happen that often. The last major time was obviously, iPad and mobile, but I think the resolution boost is going to come from the resi side again, opposed to the commercial. All right, let's kick off with a couple of stories. I'm going to combine a few here. From commercial integrator, Solotech is set to acquire Morris Light and Sound, as well as from AVNation.tv, Pearl Technology is going to acquire IAS Technology. What makes, and these are obviously two separate stories, but what makes these stories kind of interesting is on the Solotech side, you're adding Morris, which is huge in live production and events, touring. It is a vertical that Solotech had, but this is obviously really bringing it in. Dawn, when you see these kinds of high-level acquisitions where you're really adding a vertical, you're not building a vertical from within, you're not building that vertical from the ground up, you're buying it. Is that a trend that you expect to see continue?
Well, it's definitely a smart way of going about things. Having worked for a small integrator back in the past that tried to break into a new vertical, there's a big learning curve, especially, if you're going into healthcare or if you're going into finance or government, or, some verticals have some very steep learning curves involved in taking them on. And if you don't already have folks with that experience in your staff, it's going to be a rough road to drive on. So by acquiring someone that already has expertise in a particular vertical or even a particular region of the country or of the world, and you already know the local customs, that is a very smart way of getting into that market, be it a vertical market or a regional market that you wouldn't otherwise, be able to do as easily. It's definitely a shortcut. So, kudos for taking that road. And I think it speaks also to, and this kind of goes into the other story, the greater recognition of the AV industry, that over the past 5 years, I think we've seen a lot of mergers and acquisitions within and without the AV industry, buying into the AV industry, from hedge funds to other integrators to semi-related industries over here that kind of cross over into our world. And I think that's at long last some recognition, much like the Emmy thing, that AV is for real. We're legit. We have expertise in various areas that are worth acquiring. And I'm excited by it, and I think it's going to continue.
Yeah, very good. Christopher, when you see this, one of the things that kind of, I don't want to say concerns me, and you have to preface this with the fact that I'm Canadian. Canada is still significantly more shut down than the US. But one of the things that I see, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but that with the year of tours not happening, concerts not happening, events not happening, that there will be, shall we say, a larger market of available or easily attainable tour-based companies. Is that something that you perceive to be coming to pass, or is that just a nature of the beast?
I think that, Matt, at the end of the day, you're going to see more and more of these mergers happening, more of the adoption of these verticals, companies that are going to see the need to acquire the kinds of services that are on one end going to allow them to have the audio, video, and virtual capabilities to not only support their current customer base, but also to be able to grow, to adopt new customers and partners, and to provide some of those virtual events and virtual services that are needed. So for example, a big industry now is those virtual event services. That's a major industry that is something that Equity Intelligence that we provide. As my company, Equity Intelligence, we're the only Black-owned MBE, minority business enterprise, through the National Diversity Supplier Council that provides that particular service. So there's such a huge opportunity there in the market for companies to adopt businesses that provide these kinds of services. So adding that audio visual as well as IT integration really provides companies that may not be their specialty, provides so much expansion and opportunity. With that being said, something that Jeremy Caldera, the CEO of IAS, said really got the wheels in my head turning, which was, I'm looking forward to working with an even bigger client base, and to have the support of the IT team at Pearl Technology. So on one hand, we're talking about AV, but another aspect is the IT aspect, right? So it's not just AV, but it's also the integration of AV with IT that we also have to talk about. That, again, the fact is AV and IT, again, are becoming more and more one and the same in many ways. So I also, as a side note, I really say that also influences a lot of this expansion.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's where we were going with the next question. When you see what Pearl has done in the acquisition of IAS, I don't think it's the first IT company that has acquired an AV company, but it's not something we hear about a lot. Brittany, is this the IT companies looking at the AV side and saying, it's just easier to buy an AV company that can work within our IT world, and we're not going to butt heads with them? Or is it more, kind of to Don's point, that we're now legit, that if you're going to offer an IT solution, that you also have to have the ability to offer that AV solution? Otherwise, your clients are going to have to go somewhere else.
I think it really just comes down to a big trend that we're seeing, which is the diversification of disciplines, right? So our integrators, part of the USAV group, our integrators are being faced with the obstacle of their clients needing a one-stop shop. Their budgets are being cut because of decrease in sales and projects. Projects are being put on hold because of shutdowns. So these integrators are needing to find ways that they can provide all the services that their clients need in one fell swoop. And these acquisitions provide that opportunity for our integrators and for the AV and IT industries to offer that one-stop shop.
Dawn, is this something that you feel in the foreseeable future you will not find a singular focused AV company, that the mass majority of AV companies, from the huge integrators to the small mom and pop shops, that if they can't actively play in multiple disciplines, that they will cease to exist?
I think it's already happening. I know of the 4 or 5 small mom and pop integrators that I've worked for in my career, I think only one of them is still in business, and they've shifted their business model almost exclusively to an IT services with some AV related. I mean, a lot of them have folded. A lot of them have been acquired by larger AV companies just to get those CTSDs that they happen to have on staff, or take over that big client that was the one big client mom and pop had. It really is something that is ubiquitous in today's business world. Kind of to Brittany's point, we are sort of under the IT umbrella now, but I can speak for my own company. Just internally, they pulled us out of communications. AV used to be communications. They pulled us out of there and stuck us under IT. And after about 2 years under IT, the IT people were like, we need to work with you, but we don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to pull you out from under us and just make you your own thing over here, but you got to work with us. So, it's one of those things that you have to have some of that skill set. I've been preaching it on my own show, and every time I show up here, integrators, like, go to school, learn some IT stuff, take some CTSN classes, and take some, of the networking things that Avixa and other organizations offer. Because if you can't offer something more than just here's your screen, here's your black box to plug into your computer, you're not going to be in business. You're probably not in business already. You're probably thinking, what have I done with the past 40 years of my life? So, it's where we are. It's 2021. Might not feel like it because of the pandemic, but this is where we are. This is what you have to be focusing on. And that's multidisciplinary. The guys that just used to do what they called video, that was VTC and UCC, they're part of the greater AV package now. The digital out of home, just digital signage guys, a lot of them are under the greater AV package. IT services and IT integration with the AV, all under that package now. And if you don't have at least some skills in those areas, I'm not hiring you.
So if you missed it, Dawn said go to school.
That's right.
That's what.
Never stop learning, kids.
Never stop learning. All right.
Come to the Loop Lab. Come to the Loop Lab.
Shameless plug.
Hey, I'm down with the shameless plug. That's all good. All right, let's hit our last story of the day. This comes to us from AV Interactive. A Saudi meeting room is recreating the spirit of the users by utilizing a ton of Arthur Holm retractable display solutions. They've combined a way to capture the spirit of end users at Prince Mohammed bin Fahd University in Saudi Arabia. Chris, let me come back to you on this. This is a really stinking cool installation, and I will happily disclose that anytime I see Arthur Holm loaded in a boardroom, I just get all goosebumpy. It's such a sexy, cool product. But what we're seeing here is, again, a really good use of trying to involve everyone in the room. Is that going to become, or has that become, the gold standard for how to properly do a boardroom?
I think that making something elegant, like when I saw, the picture of this, and I'm thinking to myself, it's interesting, right? You got this nice, wonderful blend of furniture design. You have courtesy boxes with concealed tissue, water bottles. There's a lot of comfort. It depends. Whether or not this is the future of an experience like this, it would be a matter of preference. I'll be honest, I don't know where to go with the story, only because I think it really is in the eyes of the beholder, right? Like AV is all about enhancing the communication experience, right? Ultimately. So if part of that is definitely geared towards luxury and, in safety and some of those aspects, then yeah, sure. For me, it doesn't speak to my spirit. Just to be honest, but yeah, I'll have to pass the mic to Don or Brittany on this one.
Brittany, when you see this and given what Chris just said, on one hand, I absolutely love it. I love the concept of not only having a display right in front of you. I'm to the age where I don't own readers yet, but I probably should because I can't see anything that's far away. Shut up, Don. No one asked you to laugh.
I got my first readers this year.
I love the fact that in the all the armchairs that are at the side of the boardroom, where somebody who's obviously not at the table but still needs to get information, that they have a pop-up armrest, a la your first class seat in an airplane. I love that, but I also get where Chris is coming from, that this can also get to a point where it's too much. How do you go about taking a client who really wants either that super tech experience and they want the push the button and the Arthur Holmes stuff to come up and do its fancy fades, as well as the client who's like, you know what, this room seats 20 people and we'll put a 50-inch on the wall down there, it'll be fine. How do you balance that?
I think it comes down to identifying who the audience is. Who are the people that you're wanting this technology to please? Is it you as the company owner, or is it the clients that you're bringing in, or is it the projects that you're showcasing? Keeping that in mind, it really helps narrow that focus and that the purpose of the install. I'm with Chris. It's neat, it's cool looking, but is it really practical? I could see that kind of a setup being more of like a showroom for products, and somebody coming in and saying, like, okay, I just want to do the monitors and the armrests of the chairs because our boardroom is big, but we're going to have to spread everybody out because of social distancing. And then that's it. Like, I don't see somebody coming in and doing a full-fledged install of what this boardroom in the article talks about. It just doesn't seem practical at this point. While it is cool and it has some really neat things, you just kind of have to remember who's the audience and who is this pleasing? Is it pleasing you or the customer?
Well, they're bursting my bubble.
I'll share from the certified technology specialist side of it. For me, it feels very impractical in the sense of like form follows function at all times, right? And so for me, it's like, okay, the form follows function in the sense of, who is this for and what are you looking to do? So maybe like Brittany referred earlier, like if this is a showroom and we're just trying to do something really cool here, then yeah, okay, that could be a demo in Vegas or in Dubai. Yeah, fine. But yeah, it might be very impractical if we're trying to set this up in every single conference room over the country. But on a moral side of it, because I'm going to go there morally, the money that could go into this rather than some of the young at-risk adults that I work with at the Loop Lab that could get them into opportunities to get into the audio video industry that could create and save their lives, but also provide pipelines to empower the pro AV industry itself. I mean, one of these seats or chairs itself, the consoles itself, could literally empower 18 of my students in 1 year. I mean, so on a moral level, ethical level, yeah, like of course I'm gonna feel a type of way. So if I seem kind of like flustered, that's where that comes from. So I just want to speak truth to power about that end of it.
Yeah, no.
But aside from all that, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting, conference room. Don?
My take is, I'm sure I am not the only person that's been an integrator or an end user, more likely integrators, in the industry that goes to InfoComm every year and just makes a list of the coolest, shiniest, neatest, sexiest products that, oh my God, I'm going to put this in my back pocket and just pray for the day that I get the client and the use case to install this. Yes, this is like the coolest thing. Arthur Home has literally been one of those companies in my back pocket almost as long as I've been in the industry. When I first started them, I was like, those guys and the guys with the little Servalier things that drop down, and at Infocom, and there's like 4 or 5 other companies that have these just cool, random, awesome technology things that I just want to play with. And I just want to put in that right, perfect integration. And realistically, we don't always have that. Our customer base, our use cases, they don't match up. I even did a pilot 2 years ago of another cool technology. Didn't work out for that customer and that use case in my organization. Yesterday, I had a meeting with a different group within the organization that it is the use case for, and I finally get to work on that particular project. So, Arthur Home, this fits this for me. Mm-hmm. That's who they are. And, morally, yeah, Christopher, you're right. That money could be used for a whole lot of better good in the world, but so could a lot of money that, Bezos and Cuban and whoever Gates have, So unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast. If you're putting in a conference room at the biggest head of OPEC in the Middle East with all these oil billionaires and sheiks and royalty, you're going to have some sexy bells and whistles and marble walls and gold-plated, toilet seats. If you're putting in a nonprofit or a government facility or, just the small shop down the street, you're not going to have the need for this. It's not the right case. It's not the right situation. So I'm excited to see this particular install because they are the group that can afford to and want that experience. And in that regard, it's pretty badass.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you all for joining us. Brittany, if people want to connect with you, learn more about USAV, where can they do that?
They can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, USAV Group. Also on the web, usavgroup.net. And be sure to watch out. I'm going to do a shameless plug. Hey, if Chris gets to, we get to. Check out our next gen education being held at PSA Tech in May, as well as late this summer.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hope, thank you, sir. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Equity Intelligence or the Loop Lab, where can they do that?
All right. Thank you, Matt. If people want to learn more about my business, Equity Intelligence, they can go to promotingequity.com. That is promotingequity.com. And if they want to learn more about the Loop Lab, they can go to thelooplab.org.
Yeah, definitely check Loop Lab out. That is a fantastic nonprofit there. Don, my friend, if people want to connect with you, not learn anything about your company, but maybe see your podcast, where can they do that?
People probably know about my company, but I'm not allowed to tell you about it or I'd have to kill you. So you won't find me there unless you see me at a show at Infocom, if we ever get to have Infocom. In the meantime, if you're looking for me, you can find me on the socials and the interwebs and all that fun stuff. I'm usually at AV Dawn or Dawn Mead with an E on the end, just like General George. And you can always, of course, find me here on avnation.tv, hosting the AV Social Show and showing up on AVWeek and the other shows as much as they'll let me, because I like to talk.
Not even sure how to follow that one up.
It's the truth.
Thanks again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter and pretty much every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by avnation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of AV Week.